TIFU by telling a Korean that his language sounds like Japanese. Obligatory not today but a few years ago. I was seeing a guy and he invited me over to his place where he lived with a flatmate. The flatmate exclusively hooked up with Asian guys and had met a guy from Korea that day. They were watching a Korean movie with subtitles when I arrived. At this point I would just like to say that my only exposure to any type of Far East Asian culture was anime, so I was woefully ignorant to both the history of that part of the world and its linguistics. I made an offhand comment that the language in the movie sounded like Japanese. The guy gave me a nasty look that I really didn't understand at the time but was like, okay. Years later I came to find out about the atrocities that the Japanese did against the Koreans and have been feeling awful about my comment ever since. TLDR told a Korean guy Korean sounds like Japanese. Korean here. The guy should have just said it was Korean language and that would have been it. Also, some words are the same sound and meaning in Korean and Japanese. You did nothing wrong. But the other Korean dude was just rude. I just asked the Asian guy in my office if he was speaking Chinese or Japanese. He was speaking English. To be fair, you weren't wrong. I speak Korean quite fluently and have for over 2 decades, and sometimes I'll overhear someone speaking Japanese and briefly mistake it for Korean. The two languages share a lot of phonetic similarities. It's closer to Japanese than other surrounding languages like Mandarin. But the cultural implications, oof. Japanese and Korean actually are linguistically related, which was also one of the little factoids that Japanese colonizers used to claim that their forced assimilation, colonization efforts on the Korean peninsula were just an effort to reunify the two cousin cultures. Under Japanese leadership, of course. In all seriousness though, while us Asians can get a little huffy about our cultures being mistaken for one another in the West, these kids of mistakes happen. I once mistook a Scottish musical group for being Irish in front of an Irish person, and I still cringe a little at that, even if she didn't seem offended at all. Plus, it's generally the older generation, think in their 60s and 70s, that continue to hold a grudge. My dad, for example, hated the Japanese for the longest time for the rape of Nanking. And frankly with good cause. But over time he learned to chill out a bit and recognize that cross-cultural relations cannot be built along a single emotional axis. The important thing is to just take it as a learning experience and recognize that cultures are much bigger and more complex than we can fully realize, and learn to appreciate the unique differences over time. And in the future, you might just surprise and delight someone when you know a little more about their culture than they expected. Do you really think that dude was thinking about Japanese atrocities when you made that mistake? Probably was just surprised. And BTW. How ridiculous would it be if today someone from, let's say, Poland would be extra offended when you mistake his language for German because 80 years ago people of his nationality were killed by German speakers. Most Indians speak English today, even with each other, to cross language barriers, and I don't think many Indians then go and say, English is offensive since they colonized us in 80 years ago. Starved millions. Shit was done in the past, but you gotta be special to take something that happened to your ancestors to hate people along something as arbitrary as nationality. Would you hate a Roma from Germany because he is German despite his ancestors being killed in the Holocaust? Or do you have to follow the stupid Nazi understanding of Aryan to be eligible for hate? My one German great-grandpa died in 1940 as part of the merchant fleet where he went to not have to serve in the army. Is he guilty because he was German and didn't try to topple Hitler? He was a boy when Hitler came to power and had young kids early. And do I deserve hate because one of some of my ancestors being born Germans and didn't stop anything they were doing in 33 and tried to stop Hitler by themselves? Or what about the many Koreans who served under, with the Japanese? The last crown prince of Korea was a general in the Japanese army. His heirs are rich people in Korea. Do they deserve less hate than a Japanese whose ancestors were killed in WW2 by the Kempeitir? Whose grandma had to serve Japanese troops and then GIs as a comfort women?
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Ericast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.